I'm Bree.
And I'm Hannah.
We met through our shared obsession with romance and fantasy novels.
And honestly, we haven't stopped talking about books since.
Each week, we're sharing what we're reading, sharing our opinions,
and spilling all the tea about our lives.
So whether you're here for book recs, hot takes, or you just want to hang out with us for a bit,
you're in the right place. We're also talking about life, sharing our highs and lows,
and having the kind of conversations we'd have over margaritas.
Welcome to Chapter Chats. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Chapter Chats.
In today's episode, we're going to be telling you about all of the ways we have differing opinions on different books. But first, we'll do our highs and lows. You want to go first?
Do I want to go first? My high... So, we're recording this towards the beginning of a month, and on the first of every month, my husband and I always go to it's not always to a new spot, but we go out to lunch or coffee or whatever and do a life admin powwow. And we went to a new brewery this time that we'd never been to before. And I loved it. They had really good food, and I'm not a big beer person all the time, but they had a beer that I really love, which after having it, I was like, I've definitely had this before because it was the only beer I would drink in law school, but I just forgot. And it was a really cute brewery. They had a huge big patio, and we had nice weather in the mid 70s for the first time in months over the weekend. And so it was just a nice little outing. But I also just like finding new local spots that I feel like I can return to. Yeah, so that was mine. How about yours?
Yeah, my high is, I just said, feeling accomplished at work. Basically, I was I work in criminal appeals, so I basically read and write all day. I'm not in the courtroom. Average for our office is 1 to 2 briefs per month, and I've already done 4 this year, so I just been on the grind at work and getting it done, which means that the next month and a half, 2 months, will be slower and more chill for me, which will be great because I'm going to Hawaii and different things. So getting things done really early, and ultimately my life will be easier later on. So that was a high.
Do they just randomly rotate who gets assigned things, or do you
At the beginning of every month, we usually get 2 to 3 new case assignments depending on, it all depends on how often appellants have filed their briefs. So if we have a month where 50 appellants have filed a brief, then we have a lot to go through for our unit. And we just go down a list. So it's in order of everyone, and they try to spread out more difficult briefs versus easier briefs. It's all time management skills, which is one of the very few skills I have. So I'm very good at deciding how to divvy up so my time is spent perfectly, but not more than 40 hours a week.
You said we will not be doing that.
No, I was if I'm working more than 40 hours in a week, something is wrong. I refuse. I was unless the sky is burning, I should not be working 40 hours plus.
Really specific, period. Yep. How about your low?
My low is just, after I just talked about how great work is, I'm just feeling meh. I'm feeling meh with making content for Bookstagram and being on there. I'm feeling meh about a lot of things in life, and it's just one of those weeks where it's just, eh.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit before we started recording about just being in those moods where everything bothers you, but you can't, and you can feel that it all bothers you, but it's hard to snap out, I feel like.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm I know that this thing probably isn't that big of a deal, but right now it's pissing me off. It doesn't matter what it is, just things are just pissing me off. So, and I'm it's irrational, but it is where we're at.
And knowing that it's not a big deal doesn't really help if you're in one of those moods. So,
yeah.
I hope Bree's going to Mexican food after this, so I hope that fixes you.
The queso marks will revive my life.
My low is really stupid. Sometimes we batch record these, and so I'm trying to think of multiple different lows at a time. And so this
and
is
it's my life is so great. What is my low?
Well, okay, one, sometimes when things are lows, actual lows, I'm not gonna put them on the podcast.
No, I get
personal. But so anyway, basically, my husband and I, we don't watch a ton of TV together, but usually when we have dinner, and then on the days that I work from home, sometimes for lunch we'll just play an episode of something while we're eating, and we're caught up on almost every show that we've been watching. So I think right now we're actively episodically watching as they come out: Abbott Elementary, Traitors, The Pit, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Below Deck Med just started because Below Deck regular just finished. And there's one other one. Well,
Are you
we're
caught
not
up
really.
on Salt Lake City?
No, we're not watching that episodically, though, because we're not caught up. But we are pacing with Sean and Magali because they're also watching it. And they're like 4 episodes behind us right now. So I feel like we have to like wait for a little bit to have them catch up. But also, we're on season 2, and that season's like 24 episodes. Like, it's a very long season, which I'm sure no one was planning on like Jen Shaw getting arrested. So that probably added a whole another storyline that, you know, they weren't planning for, which is fine. Anyway, so we're like, okay, since everything else is caught up, we need to find like a show that we can just watch. And usually what happens, because Michael's like much more into TV than I am, he'll like make a list of things he wants to see, and then I'll pick like off of that. And he really wants to watch Peaky Blinders. And it's not even that I don't want to watch Peaky Blinders. I just don't want to like, it doesn't feel like the right time for me right now. But every time we're like, okay, what should we watch? He's always like, well, we could watch Peaky Blinders, but like, you don't want to. And so I'm like, can we pick a different show? And so we tried watching The Crown for a little bit, which I did like, but it's a very brain on show because it's basically just like historical fiction, but very much historical. So you're like learning as you go, which is not a bad thing, but also like you probably picked up from the other shows that I watch. I like things that are slightly less brain on for like after work TV. So anyway, we're just kind of in a rut with that. And I feel like it's the same conversation that comes up every single night. And he doesn't like to watch a lot of my shows. So I'm like, okay. And obviously, reading is my big hobby. I didn't need to make this into like a whole conversation. And his big hobby is gaming. And we only have like our one TV. So anytime that he's like got free time or downtime, he's on the TV. So I'm either watching stuff like on my laptop or I'm not watching it, which is not a bad thing. Like, it's fine. But yeah, I'm like, if you're going to hog the TV 100% of the time, like, maybe you could let me pick some of my shows. But he does watch like Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I've gotten him into various Bravo things, so I know that's not what he would like normally pick. So it's not that he's making no concessions, but anyway, this is the ongoing conversation in my house. Hope you guys enjoyed that since I just talked about it for like 5 minutes. How about a recent read from you, Iron Gold?
It's the first book that has multiple POVs, and 3 of the point of views are like random-ish characters. Like 2 of them we've never even met before, and one of them is a little random until the story progresses. And so I like was really thrown off and struggling because I'm a Darrow girl. I just want him. And so I was like, I don't care about these other people. But after like page 150, I really started to enjoy the other POVs, and I really loved it. I thought the plot was really good. I was entertained the whole time, and I gave it 5 stars, which apparently is very unpopular, but I dug it.
I feel like I see people around usually ranking Iron Gold as like the least favorite overall.
Yeah. And it's definitely not my least favorite.
Where would you put it in comparison with like the previous 3?
I would put it below Morningstar, but above Red Rising.
Okay. So 3rd out of 4. That's still on the lower end for you, but not at the bottom.
And then, yeah, that's where I put it. I was like trying to think of something, but
I still have not continued my my Red Rising journey yet. I'm still buddy reading them with Michael, which, as we just discussed, his main hobby is gaming. But I think he said that his Libby told him that it was available soon, the audio. So maybe later this month we will start that. Recent read is kind of opposite of yours in the sense that I like didn't like it, and it's later on in the series, and most people said that this book trended up, and I did not feel that way. It's Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. I think, I don't know if I'm even in the minority at this point, because I feel like every time I post anything negative about the Empyrean series, generally there's always a flood of DMs of people saying that they also did not like it. I gave this book 2 stars. I really liked Fourth Wing. I gave it 5 stars. I think it was one of my favorite reads of the month that I read it. Not that that's saying much, because I read it in the same month that I read a ton of Zodiac Academy books, but I really like that one. I think it would have made an excellent standalone. Iron Flame to me was a disappointment. I gave that one 3 stars. And then obviously, like I just said, I gave Onyx Storm 2 stars, but I honestly think if I were to reread them, I think I liked Onyx Storm better than Iron Flame. But, you know, as you change as a reader and a rater, I feel like I would just assign different star ratings to different things at this point. But it really just felt like everybody was running around yelling at each other. And it felt like a lot of like zipping from place to place with very minimal world building and a lot of, it wasn't even like the same frustrating repeated conflict that we got in Iron Flame, but it was like every single interaction they had, I feel like was not, like there was no character development. And so I feel like because of that, I felt very disconnected from what was going on, and like the things that were supposed to clearly be very emotional moments just didn't feel that way. And so anyway, I can't for sure say that I'm like done with the series because I'm not good with like not getting closure on things that I've started, especially being 3 books into it out of, I think there's supposed to be 5. So I will probably continue. It's also such a like moment in the cultural zeitgeist, I feel like, that like I want to know what happens, but I don't care about what happens, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, because I gave it 2.5, so I rated it slightly higher than you, which is weird. That never happens. But I literally, in my review, similar to you, I was like, I don't care about any of these people at all. Like, I just could not care less what was happening to them. I was not engaged at all. And the only character that had development was Riddick, in my opinion. I felt like he really came into his own in this book, and he was the best part of it for me. But everyone else had like no development. Also, I feel like this is a bigger problem when you have your 2 main characters get together in the first book, but then all their problems are only internal after that. Because I feel like Crescent City suffered from that a little bit, but there were still enough external factors affecting Bryce and Hunt as a couple that it didn't feel as like tedious almost as I feel like Fourth Wing does that series, because it's like almost all of Violet and Zayden's problems are internal. I feel like there's very few external, like there's obviously a bigger like thing going on, but it's 90% of it is internal with them, and it just drove me up a wall.
yeah. And I don't want to like force everyone to listen to like all of my thoughts about this because I could talk for a while about it since I do have a lot of feelings, but one of my major issues, I think, is that every book ends on a cliffhanger, which is fine. But then the way that each cliffhanger is resolved makes it seem like the problem just isn't even a big deal. And so I'm like, okay, why is the resolution always like, oh, we thought that was crazy, but it's actually not? Like, there's a character that comes into the story on the very last page of Fourth Wing, and then that character is just like naturally very integrated with everybody by the time Iron Flame starts. And at the end of Iron Flame, something happens to one of the main characters that you think like is an kind of moment. And we spent almost the entire book of Onyx Storm just like not telling anybody that even happened, and it's just frustrating to me on, and maybe it's just because it's a romantasy series, but it's like the whole, exactly what you said, the tension of them getting together was solved in book 1, so then all of the rest of this drama feels very contrived and unnecessary. Whereas if, like, your example is Crescent City, like, that's an epic fantasy versus, like, strictly romantasy, so I feel like there was lots of other things to focus on, and it was much more plot forward, which makes even the, like, you know, conflict between the main couple not feel so repetitive and useless.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I'm irritated with it, and it's such a long book. And I'm not someone who has an issue with long books, but I do think that books need to earn their pages, and I don't think this one earned its pages. Like, I don't feel like there was any reason for it to be this long, and it annoys me as a busy reader with a full-time job who has a very full TBR that I wasted so many of my hours on this. And I know, because I'm sure people will say it, that I could have DNF'd, and they're right in the sense that I could have. But like I said, I think I still have a level of desire to know how this story ends, given all of the like weird plot lines and lack of resolution we've been getting on everything, even though I don't feel super invested. So, not a solution, in my opinion.
Yeah, and if you know me, I am the queen of not DNFing. I will finish a book so I can complain with my full chest and say why I hate it. And I think that's valid. People are always yelling at me to DNF. I don't freaking want to. Okay? Move on. I want to complain. I get to read so I can either gush about how much I love it or gush about how much I hate it. That's my right as a reader.
I think on my end, the like lack of DNFing comes more from, one, I'm just a nosy person and I want to know what happens, and 2, I have this like incurable sense of optimism that like even if a book sucks for like 98%, the last 2% could totally redeem the whole thing. Ask me how many times that's happened, but there's still a chance.
I do not suffer from an incurable case of optimism. Definitely don't have that affliction.
I also think like there's some level of neither one of us is confused enough about our own book taste that we pick out books that we genuinely think from the get-go that we're going to hate. If you picked up this book for a reason and you're reading it and it doesn't click within the first 5 pages, I don't think that's enough time to give a book to really know if you're in it or not. Obviously in my situation, 16 hours in, 54% deep into Onyx Storm, I had a pretty good idea. So, that's where the other lack of wanting to DNF comes in. I don't think DNFing is the solution all the time that people think that it is. Now that we've covered all that for 20 minutes, let's jump into our main topic today. Do you want to tell them what we're talking about?
Yeah, so today is all about books that we have different opinions on after we just shared, 10 minutes of our shared opinions on Onyx Storms. Now we're going to show you how we differ because I feel like we're either passionately on the same page or passionately not on the same page. I feel like we have very wide ranges of tastes sometimes when it comes to books.
I do think we generally agree on most macro things. It's just, yeah, exactly. We have mentioned this in other episodes before, but I feel like even though we have the same favorite series, we always have different favorite books, different favorite characters. On these specific books, there's quite a few of them that I would think, and we'll kind of talk about why we think one of us liked it and the other one didn't. We kind of broke them up into books that Brie likes that I didn't and books that I liked that Brie didn't. And there are a number of books that we read, I feel like, where it's half a star, 1 star off, but very few, honestly, that are super different in rating. And so we both kind of went through, I don't know how you did it. I went through my Goodreads and was okay, which ones of these do I know I felt really good or really bad about that Brie did not? And we've been reading together for over 3 years now. So, well, about 3 years. And yeah, we both read a lot and it's not very many books we have to talk about, but the feelings run deep.
Yeah, I do feel like we definitely, like you said, agree more than we disagree. But the ones we disagree with, it's not even either that the other person thinks that it's a bad book. There's just something about it that, for lack of a better word, triggers us. It's just, there's something that happened that totally turned the other one off.
Yeah, so I think, do we want to go back and forth on these? I think probably we should just do them in the 2 chunks that we have them in so that we're not confusing as to, yeah. So you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll tell you all the books that I liked that Hannah didn't, and I will give her a little bit of time to say why she didn't like them.
And another disclaimer before we jump into it too is that Brie is much better at remembering specific books. So a lot of the time for me, it's vibes. I generally think that I didn't like X, Y, or Z thing. Some of these are recent reads, but most of them are from, it's been a while. Yeah. So we've obviously grown closer instead of further away in our reading tastes. The best example of this is me forcing Brie to read Red Rising.
Yes.
And now she's passed me by 2 books.
That sounds typical of our relationship. Okay, so my first book that I have is Catch the Sun by Jennifer Hartman, which I don't know how many Jennifer Hartman books you've actually read.
Just this one.
Just this one? Okay, so I've read, I think this was my 4th or 5th one. And so I really like Jennifer Hartman's books. I have to be in a very specific mood to be emotionally wrecked and just broken to read her books because a lot of people call them trauma porn and they probably can be categorized as that. But sometimes I want that in a book. Sometimes I want a book that is just so over the top, emotionally devastating, even if it doesn't fully make sense. And yeah, this book definitely was that. I cried so hard. I read it at the perfect time. I don't feel like if I had read it at another time, it would have been a 5-star for me. But the mood reader in me was so happy. It emotionally destroyed me and I loved it.
And this is a contemporary, I guess, YA, NA sort of book.
Yeah, I think it's technically said it's YA, but I refuse that label. It is not YA. It is new adult. A lot of publishers, if books involve teenagers from 16 to 18, they automatically categorize it as YA. And the topics in this book are not YA. And they're spice, so I will die on that hill. It's not YA.
And for that, we define spice as anything that's got anyone taking clothes off. If it's just kissing, I think that's fine. But yeah, this went much further than that for sure. So like Brie said, this is my first Jennifer Hartman, and I think partially I rated it, I think, a 4-star, but this would be one that if I were to go back, it would probably be closer to a 3, if not lower than that. And the main problem for me, I think, was lack of proper expectations. I got this book because I liked the cover. It was
Which
in
is
the
a
romance
flower.
section. It's a sunflower. It's so pretty.
Yeah.
I think it's a daisy, actually, but it's like yellow and there's like the sun
It's
in the
gorgeous.
background. It's so pretty. And so I got this from the romance section thinking like this is a pretty cover and it's going to be a cute little romance. And it did start that way, but then it very quickly devolved into a lot of interpersonal drama and like domestic violence and like all kinds of themes that I'm sure there were trigger warnings for. It's not even that I have like triggers. I think I wasn't in a good headspace. Like Brie was just talking about how she reads this author when she's like in a very specific mood and is prepared to like get wrecked. And I was not prepared to get wrecked. And I was reading this in a buddy read with a bunch of different people. And so it wasn't even necessarily like, I wanted to read this book at this time. And I think it just was a lot. And it didn't feel, and I have since learned from other people that have read Jennifer Hartman often, Brie included, that like she just packs in all of the like dramatic, traumatic things. And like it was every character too had their own like issues that they were working through. And it was a lot and I wasn't expecting it and it didn't hit quite right. And it started to feel, I think because I wasn't expecting it, just like super unrealistic, which individually each of the things that happened are not unrealistic and are real actual things that happen to people. But it was just like, and it's all going to be in 5 pages and it's all going to be to this one girl and like, and it's all going to be, yeah. And then I didn't feel like there was a ton of resolution either, even with the epilogue. And so I just felt very unsettled when I finished it. And that's never a great feeling for me. I like things to be like, you know, the nice happy ending and we kind of like got everything tied together in a bow. And if it's going to be an ambiguous ending, I think there has to be some kind of at least like indicator that there's a purpose for making it ambiguous. Yeah. So that's kind of where I came from. I thought the writing was honestly pretty good and I liked the characters for the most part. So I think it was just everything all at once when I wasn't planning for that. But I would read another one, I think, by her again. But I think, yeah, I would be very careful about the timing.
Yes. I say you should read Lotus next. That's my favorite by her. And it is also very heavy, so be prepared, but it's gorgeous.
Why do you think I would like that one?
I feel like there's more resolution in Lotus than there is in Catch the Sun.
Okay.
And the MC is like the most precious golden retriever man. Basically, he's been like trapped in a bunker and told that like the world was ending and he escapes. And he was like kidnapped basically when he was like, I don't know, like 6 or something. And he's been in this bunker since.
Oh.
And so he like gets out and figures out the world is not ending. And then he like reconnects with his childhood best friend and all of these things are like revealed about like what actually prompted him being kidnapped and what he saw, and there's a mystery and they fall in love and it's really cute.
I don't think I have anything else by her on my shelves right now, but I would get any of her books, I think, from the library. I just wouldn't want to like commit to them given my experience.
Yeah. Also, it's just like you're not a lover of the pain as much as I am.
No. Yeah, so it's not even that I don't like pain or like emotional damage because I'm fine with that, but they have to be swing up books where I feel like we end in a better place. And I think, obviously, I can't speak to the rest of her books yet, but it feels like it started in a better place than it ended, given everything that like happened. So if books are like that, I don't do as well.
And see, I thought that the ending was pretty resolved, but maybe that's just because I've read a lot of her books, so I'm used to it. I don't know.
I won't get into details while we're on air, but like for me, an epilogue should be like if we took that off, the book would still end in the same place and it's just like an added bonus. You know what I mean? And so the fact that like we got nothing, it's very like Mike and 11 at the end of Stranger Things, where I'm like, maybe they'll get back together, but like I don't know that, and I don't like that I don't know that. So I have my own thoughts on epilogues though, but
okay, the next, what time? We've been going 40 minutes. Okay, we're going to bust these out. The next book, no, you're fine. The next book is Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey, which is not even a book that I'm like, I really liked it. I gave it 5 stars because I thought it was really unique. And it was one of the first books I read getting back into reading in law school. And I was obviously reading a bunch of very boring, tedious, mind-consuming case law. And so reading something that was silly and stupid and goofy, like Fix Her Up, just hit perfectly because I did not have to think at all. I thought it was ridiculous and that was really fun. And so, but literally everyone else hates this book. All of my friends.
Maddie really likes it. She gave it 5 stars and she stands by that. Yeah, this one, probably similar. Like, I don't know that I had like a huge problem with it. I think it takes a lot for me to like not like a book because of the characters, but this is a female main character that drove me nuts. And so her job is like she's an actual clown. Like, she dresses up and does like children's parties and things, which is not in itself bad, but a lot of her plot was like feeling like she wasn't a grown-up essentially and was just kind of like derping around through life like with no direction or ambition or anything, and kind of coming to terms with like whether she feels like she has to be an adult or if it's okay to like kind of be who she is, which is fine. Like, as a theme, I think that's kind of an important one for like some books to cover, since there's a lot of people that feel that way. But I think a lot of her conflict and issues felt like just her own brand of immaturity, and something that I can't deal with in books is immaturity. Like, it drives me insane. It's like nails on a chalkboard. This was earlier on in like my Tessa Bailey journey, so I hadn't read a ton by her yet. And like the ones I do like by her would be like It Happened One Summer, Hook, Line, and Sinker. I really like her, I forget what they're called, but they're like the cop romance police academy trilogy.
I haven't read those.
I don't know if you'll like them. I don't know if I'd like them as much if I read them now, but they were like fun without being like ridiculous, I think. And I just felt like this one was ridiculous.
See,
in like a
I
bad
feel
way.
I feel like Tessa Bailey is only good when she is ridiculous. Every book I've read by her that tries to handle super heavy topics, I've hated. I don't think she does it well. I liked It Happened One Summer and Hook, Line, and Sinker, but even those didn't handle like super heavy topics. And so I feel the few books that she's tried to like actually like write about difficult things, I think she does a terrible job, and I'm not a fan.
I don't think I've even read one where I would say that she's attempted that, but I have not read nearly the amount that you have of hers either.
Yeah, I also think I'm moving out of my Tessa Bailey era, so I feel like if I read Fixer Up now, I would not love it as much as I did. So I'm not going to reread it because it's going to stay in my mind as something that I loved. Because it was the perfect, like I said, the perfect moment. Ridiculous, stupid, super fun, and I read it in like a day. Like, I just binged it, so.
Yeah, I don't even think necessarily that it's her other books being like so deep and serious or anything. I just think they're a little bit more grounded in like reality. So good for her for finding her man, though, even though she's immature and annoying.
Okay, my next one is Scarred by Emily McIntyre, and this is part of the Never After series. It is my personal favorite in the Never After series. They're not fairy tale retellings, but they're like inspired by fairy tales, and so this is for legal reasons. This is Hamlet, not The Lion King, but you know, if you know, you know. I really loved this. I thought it was a super fun inspiration. I loved the characters. I loved the like Regency-esque setting. I just thought it was super fun, and I loved that both of our MMCs were kind of like anti-heroes, and so I thought that was fun.
This was another one that I didn't like dislike. I think I gave it 4 stars. And I think it's another one where if I were to reread it, I probably would have rated it closer to 3. But I also think I've gotten gradually disenchanted with the Never After series as a whole. My favorite of all of them, I think, was Hooked, which was the first, followed very closely by Twisted, which is the not Aladdin reimagining. Yeah, so it's not even that I dislike this one. I think this was another one where I was kind of like jarred. It's a series, but it's really not. Like, I wouldn't even say that they're interconnected standalones because they're not connected. And so we went from like Hooked, which is very much based in like contemporary, I forget what city it's supposed to be in. Is it Chicago? I don't remember. And Scarred is very much in like a fantasy, different royal kingdom sort of vibe. And
yeah, almost like 1800s fantasy vibe.
And I think just as like a not related, but I guess not integral to the book is the fact that like I don't think I like Lion King as a whole as much as Brie does. So there was like a different level of investment. Like I like it. It's just not my like favorite Disney movie. Like,
it's not my favorite either, but it's still a masterpiece.
Is it not? I feel like it is.
No, my favorite. Well, I have a very special place in my heart for Lion King too, and I will stand by that. I love Kovu.
I was going to say, I think it's because you talk about Kovu so much that I feel like Lion King is like your thing.
You talk about Kovu so much. That makes me sound like such a weirdo sitting around talking about an animated lion all the time. But also the
You feel
soundtrack
about
for
him the way that I feel about Todd from Fox and the Hound, I think. Like, those are our respective favorite animated animals.
our favorite
They'd be on
animated
our
animals.
respective Hear Me Out cakes. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think he was on
I mean,
yours when
the
you
cook
did
was
it.
not even a hear me out, let's be honest. Anyway, also the soundtrack for Lion King 2 is phenomenal. So, I think Lion King and Lion King 2 are just, like, generally, like, nostalgic, but also just great. We're getting into stuff that doesn't matter. But yes, it's not my favorite Disney movie, but I do really like it. Okay, my next one is Crimson River by Devney Perry, which is the 5th book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where's
Yep,
that?
it is.
Yeah, 5th book in the Eden series, and I love this whole series. I gave every book 4 or 5 stars. I don't think any of them was below 4 for me, but I really, really liked this one, and this is the first one that I, like, read as it was, like, coming out, and so I got an arc of it. I was very excited. I am a big romantic suspense girly. I loved the suspense. I loved how both of our characters were kind of guarded, and as you read, you learned more about them, so I thought that was really different, especially from the last book, Jasper Vale, where, like, Eloise is just in your face with all of her feelings all the time. And so I thought going to the next book, was just a different type of character development. I really enjoyed getting to know them. I loved the suspense aspect. I loved the themes of, like, loving someone even though you think they've done something wrong, and then this big twist happening and it changing how you thought about things. There was a lot of layers to it, in my opinion, and I really, really enjoyed it.
I don't remember. I should have looked this up before we jumped in. What my rating for this book was. It was my least favorite in the Eden series as a whole. Well, like, maybe tied for least favorite. I know it definitely was like a 3 at worst, so it's not like I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think going from Jasper Vale, which is the 4th book, and that's coincidentally one of my favorite books in the series, I felt like it was a 180, and I think more so than any of the other books in the series, this one did lean into the suspense, and because of that, I felt like we got a less developed romance between the two characters, which probably, like Bree just touched on, was their personalities too, and a big theme of them as side characters throughout the other books, or, well, not them. It's fine. And so, yeah, I think I just wanted more from, like, their romance was the main thing. And a lot of this was, like, taking place just hiking in the woods for, like, multiple chapters. And I like hiking, but if I wanted to hike, I would go take a hike. So
I think that also fits for me because The Hobbit is my all-time favorite book, and 60% of that book is hobbits walking through the woods, so I have a thing.
And it's not even like I hate hiking books, because, like, Happiness for Beginners is one of my favorite books, so that's, like, all in the wilderness. But I think, yeah, it coming, like, 5th in the series, I felt like there were some expectations that were set, and, like, this went a different direction, which, not that that's not allowed, I just really liked the direction we had been going, so the pivot didn't work as well for me as it did for Bree. But
Yeah,
I do
because I
still
think
like this book.
I found it, like, refreshing, the difference. But that's also I feel like that's just I tend to like characters that are more guarded and sometimes not the nicest at the beginning until they develop and open up, so that's on brand for me.
Versus, like, out of that whole series, the FMCs that I, like, relate to most are for sure Eloise and then Memphis. Whereas I feel like those are not probably the FMCs that you relate to the most, so.
No, I'd probably do Winslow. She's probably my number 1.
In terms of, like, relatability to you
Yeah.
personally.
Okay. And my final book is Say You Swear by Megan Brandy, which I read this at the height of my KU romance era in law school, where I was just, like, devouring every romance book on KU possible. And actually, this was my 2nd book by her, and she makes the perfect, like, palate cleanser romances for me, because there's always, like, a hint of, like, things that are not realistic and a hint of things that are a little crazy, but I was devouring it because I was living for the drama and the romance. Also, I love Noah Riley. I think that he is a perfect book boyfriend. So, all in all, it totally worked for me.
I think I have a couple of issues with this one. I think I ended up giving it 3 stars, maybe 4. So again, I didn't hate it, but it definitely is not going down as a favorite. I think I got rid of it, maybe.
I think you did too.
Yeah. I also like Noah Riley, so where was he for half of the book is a big thing. Second, I really hate a certain trope that's in this book that very rarely ever works for me. I think the only book that it's ever worked for me in is When the Moon Hatched. Do you know what I'm talking about? I can cut it. Yeah,
No, I know what
amnesia.
you're talking about.
I gotta be honest, the writing in this book sucks. It's like Zodiac Academy level. Did you read it? Or you just said you read it in your KU era. So you read it in print. There's like grammar errors, spelling errors, like no consistency with like tone, voice, anything. And I found most of the characters to be pretty irritating, except for Noah Riley, which then makes me lose respect for him because why are you hanging out with these people? So, and I think this is one of those where like a lot of people talk about the love triangle in this book, and I genuinely don't feel like it's a love triangle, and I think it's really disingenuous to call it one because there's like a clear preference for one over the other. And even though it takes us a long time to get to the finish line on that, I don't think there's the right level of tension to call it a love triangle.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, that's my issue with it. And there's so many people that ride so hard for this book, so I do think I'm in the minority. But I also think the people that ride so hard for this book, I tend to also not agree with most of their opinion. Yeah, I don't know.
Minus me.
I feel like this book had its moment for sure, and then his kind of like I barely see it around these days. But
I also think like for me, like I'm definitely a vibes reader, and so like you said, comparing it to Zodiac Academy, I think that's a great comparison because like I do not think this is the best book written. Obviously, I've read way better romances, way better writing in general, but the vibes were vibing for me. I was deep into it, and like I said, it was my drama KU. I read a bunch of terribly written KU books, and they were 5 stars, and I stand by it because I had a good freaking time reading them. And do I think those authors would ace a literature class in college? No, but I don't care because I had a good time reading it.
I do think, like, having seen your whole list, that a lot of these you read before me in a different, like, reading phase for you. So I wonder if obviously we can't do this at this point, but like if it was like a clean slate and we were both coming to it at the same point right now, I do think our opinions would be more aligned on them, probably. Not that you would like them less, just like I think they all hit at the right time for you. So if it was like
I
a
definitely
different
think
time,
like
maybe not.
I definitely think like Crimson River and Catch the Sun, those would probably stay the same because Catch the Sun, I read that buddy read with you.
And that was last year. It had to have been because it was a buddy read, babes.
But yeah, like the rest of them, and I think depending on my mood, like I still read a trashy KU romance every once in a while. Sometimes you just like it. But I also think in general, like I hate things a lot harder than you do. So like there's a lot more books that you love that I hate than you love that I love that you hate. There we go.
Yeah. Which even when I was putting these together, I literally was just picking the ones that like I think I have the most to say about for the books that I like that you don't, because we had a much more robust amount of picks to go off of from that. So speaking of, let's jump into mine. I know we're already getting long, so we'll try to keep these relatively short. I also feel like, interestingly, this list is all much more popular books than your list. Like, I feel like more people have read them, which we could dive into why that is. But so the first one I have on here is Metal Slinger. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Brie and I had similar frustrations with this book, which was the ending. And you disliked, I think, some other stuff too, which you can talk about, obviously. But for most of this book, I was riding on giving it a 5 star. In the same way that apparently Brie likes books with people walking around, I love books where people are on boats. It's just fun. So most of this is kind of set up to be like some kind of political drama between two neighboring nations, and in the middle of this kind of political unrest, this girl falls for this dude who's from like the other side, and she like sort of gets kidnapped but like not really, and so they're on this like quest together, and she was sort of running away from her life and running away from this like expectation that she was going to kind of like settle down and become a wife and a mom, and like your era of being a child is over and that kind of thing. And so I really liked her. I really liked our main character. And I, maybe controversially, also liked the guy that she was best friends with that was, in like theory, going to get married to at the beginning of the book. And I thought the side characters were really fun. I thought the world building on this was actually pretty good and different enough. Like, it gave me kind of like Bridge Kingdom vibes in the sense that it's like you can very clearly visualize it and it doesn't feel like anything else. But the ending, literally the last chapter, flips the script on like everything, and people talk about it being like, oh, it's such a huge plot twist, blah, blah, blah. And the only reason it wasn't a 5 star for me was that it did not feel like a plot twist to me. It felt like a plot eraser, in the sense that I felt like all of the character development we got was just like washed And I'm very interested to see what book 2 does with this, but I don't think the ending was a deal breaker for me. It made me drop a star, like I said, but I think the rest of it I enjoyed enough that I didn't end up hating the book at all. I still netted positive.
Yeah, I think I gave the book, I think I gave it 3 stars, but it's a very soft 3. It's probably
I thought
more
you
like a
gave it
2.
2. Yeah.
Did I? I
I don't
might
know, but
have. It was 2 or 3. Really, and that brings me to my next point is that, honestly, this is probably no, I put 3. No,
oh, did you?
2.5. It's 3 on Goodreads, but it's 2.5. And I was about to say it's probably 2.5. Okay, as I was saying, I was correct. I know myself so well. 2.5
Except
stars.
you weren't. You
And
said 3.
yeah, but then I said 2, and then I was like, to be honest, it's gonna be a 2. Anyway, a lot of my similar thoughts that I had with Onyx Storm, I just didn't care. Like, I really didn't feel connected to the characters the way that I normally do in fantasy books or the way that I like to. Like, I want to be rooting for them. I want to care about not only the plot, but them as individuals. And I just could not care less about them as individuals. But it was still like, at that point, I was thinking like 3.5 stars. Like, it wasn't anything that I was going to like love, but it was enough to where, like you said, the world building was okay. For me, it was okay. You really loved it, but it was okay for me. The characters were, but I was like, there's enough of a underlying plot that I can still buy into it. And then the plot twist happened and it just pissed me off so bad and everyone's like, oh, this is so amazing, such great writing. And I was like, I don't think this is great writing. Usually with plot twists, there's like foreshadowing or elements like tying it together where you can look back and be like, oh, I understand now what we've been building to, or oh, this is what happened. There was nothing. It's like she literally was just like, let me blow everything up and call it a plot twist. No, you just threw something in that makes no sense. It seriously made me so mad. And to this day, I'm really mad about it and I hate it. I will probably read book 2, maybe. I also feel like this suffered because I am a mood reader. And this is when I was like, let me try to be a buddy reader again, which always goes terribly for me, even though I always convince myself to do it. And so I signed up for one of Hannah's groups, Buddy Read Babes. They were doing a buddy read of this, and I just wasn't in the mood for it, but I forced it. And so I think that that played a big part too. Like, I know myself well enough to know that I'm a mood reader. So if I'm forcing it, like, it's obviously going to suffer. So that's on me a little bit.
I feel like the only like successful buddy reads that I've seen you do with people are when it's like one-on-one and you're like almost exactly pacing the person so that it's not like, I don't know, you're not feeling like you have to like report.
Yeah. Or if it's like a book that I'm already planning to read and I'm really excited about, and you read it with me and I binge it and then wait for you to catch up. Because, like, I just did a
Happens
buddy read of
often.
Dark Age. And I had a good time with it, but I literally finished it like 3 days before the other girls. So then I was just waiting for them to catch up. But that works for me because it was what I wanted to read.
Yeah. And I think this book's ending made me as a reader feel dumb. And I don't like books that do that because it's like, was there something here, like Bree said, that I was supposed to catch? Well, Bree said there has to be foreshadowing and there wasn't. But in my head, I was like, was there? And I missed it. And if so, I shouldn't have. And I didn't like that. So I think there is a chance that it's redeemed in book 2, depending on how she ties everything together. I will need to reread though, because I don't really remember enough to jump into it besides the ending. Next up, we'll go faster on these. I have Butcher and Blackbird, which I think this, similar to like Fix Her Up for You, I think this is just right book, right time for me because I don't know if I read it now, if I would love it as much as I did. It's very spicy and not the type of spice that I like normally like. Now, especially, but even back then. And I think I liked both of the characters a lot. It felt different and fresh. This was the first Brynn Weaver book that I ever read. I've read 3 of hers since then, and none of them have hit as hard as this one did. And yeah, I think it's just fun. I had a good time with it. I'm notoriously not somebody that loves like dark, scary, anything like that. So I think I kind of went into this one thinking that I wasn't going to like it. And because my expectations were low, I feel like it helped me like it that much more.
Yeah, I think I gave it 3 or 3.5. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I don't read spice in books, so I had to skip so much of this that I was just like, okay, another scene to skip. And to me, it just felt like overtly like, okay, we get it. They want to bang. What else is gonna happen? Like, they want to bang and they want to off people. Like, is there anything else going on? So I just got overdone with it, I feel like. But I didn't
Did
hate
you
like
read the other 2 in this series?
Yes, and I think I gave them all, like, 3 stars, like, it was a very, like, mid-series overall for me. So I don't hate it, I really don't have strong feelings about it. It's just
There.
one of those I'm like, "Meh."
My next one I know Bree does have strong feelings about
Yep.
is Lessons in Chemistry. This is by Bonnie Garmis. This was all over the place when it first came out. It has a TV
Uh-huh.
show adaptation, which I still have not seen, but I hear is really good. And it's, I wouldn't necessarily say like literary fiction, but it's definitely just like straight contemporary fiction.
Uh-huh.
It's not romance, it's not fantasy or anything like that. About a woman who is living in the 60s, and she essentially has her own, like, I mean, a lot of things happened up until then, but has her own cooking show, which she uses to teach other, like, housewives science. She's a chemist, hence lessons in chemistry. So I really liked this one. I thought the writing was really good, and I appreciated the story as a whole because I feel like this spans like a number of years. So I feel like I normally do better with books that have like more amount of time than like any book that's like, this all occurred in one day. I'm like already bored, probably, which doesn't bode well because I'm about to read Malibu Rising. And I really liked our main character. I liked the side characters a lot. I loved her dog, which shouldn't be like a big part of the book, but it was. And I think I like historical fiction. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, like a little bit more than you do most of the time. And so I liked that element of like seeing like feminism through the ages type style. Yeah, I don't remember it super well. Like this would not make like a favorites of all time list for me or anything, but I really enjoyed it while I was reading it.
Yeah. I gave this 2 stars. I absolutely hated this. I hated the FMC so freaking much. I literally was so tired of listening to her inner monologue. Also, everyone kept telling me how funny this book was. I did not laugh one time. It was actually really sad. Depressing things kept happening. It wasn't funny. And then I also felt like at some point, this is like the 3rd book in a row that I read that had like underlying like anti-religion talk, and I just was so fed up with that by the time I got to this one, and it's not like it was a huge theme, but it was enough to where I was, like, so put out and done with it, like, Christians can believe in science too, y'all, like, I just was so yeah, I hated everything about this. It just did
Why'd you
not
give
work
it
for
two
me at all.
stars then?
Because 1 stars are literally books that I would burn to the ground, and I wouldn't burn this to the ground, I mean, some people could like it, like, I have to literally despise everything, and the writing wasn't bad, like, she's a talented writer, it just what she wrote, I hate it.
She also, this is the author's debut novel, and she's in her
Mhm.
like 70s, I want to say. So she like really just did this as like a passion project, and it ended up getting, I think, Barnes and Noble's like Book of the Year when
Yeah.
it came out, and like all kinds of crazy stuff. So good job, Bonnie Garmis. I thought your book was awesome.
You published something.
But I think you do hit on a good point, which is like it really is dependent not only on like what mood you were in, but what your last few books have been. And I don't mean like
Mhm.
you, just you, but like me,
Yeah.
people in general. Like I messaged Brie our book club for this month, which we'll talk about in a couple of episodes, but is We Who Will Die by Stacia Stark. And I started Firebird, which is also a like Roman Empire setting sort of fantasy book a couple weeks back. And I was like, I should not have done this right before we were going to read another one, which I think I've read enough that it ends up, it's going to be fine. But it does impact what you think of a book if you're like have something kind of
Mhm.
in like your mental backwash of what you're bringing into this next book.
Yeah, totally agree.
My next one is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I thought this was fun. That was about my like full spectrum of commentary on this book. It's a lot of people say it's like a copy and paste of Red Queen. Having read Red Queen, I don't necessarily agree with that. It does have a lot of the same themes, which I think are pretty classic YA fantasy tropes. And there's like games and trials. There's, you know, people with powers, people without powers. There's a kingdom in like political distress because of the line of succession. There's like all kinds of things that are in it such that it felt very trope packed. But I think I just read it at a time where it hit, and I had a great time reading it, and I felt like it was very entertaining, and the series did go downhill after that for me. But Powerless specifically, I enjoyed.
I gave Powerless 3 stars, and I think it's similar to, like, the ones up there where, like, I read them and they were the perfect mood for me because they were fun, and I gave them 5 stars, and you were like, "Eh, they were okay." Like, that's how I felt about this. I maintain that Kyazer is a 5-star book boyfriend in a 3-star series. Like, He is amazing. I love everything about him. Couldn't care less about anything else in the book. I also think similar to what we just talked about, I was also reading another book. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. Maybe it was Spark of the Everflame. It might have been
Mm,
that at the same time where it was like not 100% similar, but like you said, like similar enough, like fantasy,
yeah.
two classes of people, all these things happening to where I liked Spark of the Everflame so much more that this fell to the wayside. And so, yeah, it wasn't bad by any means. It was solid. I gave it 3 stars, but I'm definitely not as obsessed with it as everyone else.
I think too this is like a very good beginner romantasy. I think there's a
Yes.
lot of books that like I feel like you have to have kind of like your feet wet in the genre already to really like track, follow, enjoy. This one is so beginner friendly. I think you could jump in with this as like your first fantasy you read as an adult
Mhm.
and you would have a great time and it would be awesome. And I think a lot of that is because so much of it is like tropey that you wouldn't notice it as much. And I know that bothered a lot of people that it was just let's smash in every single thing that people like about romantasy and call it a day.
I also feel like the world building in this one is good, but it's not overly complicated. So, like, if
Mhm.
you are not a big world building like, I love deep, ridiculous, time consuming world building. Like, I love it. I want to sink my teeth into it. That's why I love When the Moon Hatched so much. But this was enough to where I still felt satisfied, but it's like, it does not take a lot of thinking to like for this world building.
Yeah. I think in the course of this series, and this was Lauren Roberts said it was intentional, but you literally visit every single place on the map by the end of the series. And it's only 3 books long, and there's not that many places on the map. And I'm like, this leaves no mystery about anything.
Yes.
Which, like you said, could be a good thing depending on what you look for in
Yeah.
the books you like to read. The last one I have on here is Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. So again, it's not like an all-time favorite, but I really enjoyed this one. This came probably about like midway-ish through my like Catherine Center journey. I've read almost all of her books, not quite all of them. And I really liked this one. I thought the face blindness concept was interesting and it was a good time. I think I did it all on audio too, so it wasn't one that I was like sitting with for long periods of time. I just kind of moved through it pretty quick and called it a day. I do remember thinking the FMC was like pretty self-absorbed and whiny, but because I liked everything else that was going on, that was just a part of it.
I gave this one 2 stars. I hated it. This was actually my very first Catherine Center book, and it almost kept me from reading any of her other books. Like, after reading this, I told myself, she's not the author for me if this is what it is. Like, maybe I just am not reading the same books as everyone else who loves her because I hated every second of this. I will say, notoriously, if I hate an FMC, 9 out of 10 times I hate the book. Like, it's just hard for me to move past that. I think it's because
It's a big
usually
deal
you're in
breaker
the
for you. Yeah.
yeah. I was like, there's very few books. There have been a couple, but there's very few that I feel like pass that threshold where I hate the FMC and I still like the book. And this one did not even come close to it. I feel like it's because we have to spend so much time in the FMC's head. Like, I have to want to be there. If I don't want to be there, then there's a problem. And yeah,
And
I
this was
thought the face
just a single
blindness.
POV too, so you're not getting
Yeah.
any breaks.
We don't get it away from her. She's just there all the time. And it literally, I thought the face blindness was cool in theory. I didn't feel like it was executed very well. I thought the like little twist I saw coming from a mile away. The FMC sucked for me. I hated her. Could not get finished with this book fast enough. And I just didn't care about the romance. And so I think because I didn't care about the characters or romance in a romance book, and it just felt really dumb to me. And now I've read other Catherine Center books, and I thought they were worlds better than this one for me personally. So take that as a just because one author's book is bad for you doesn't mean they all will be. Because yeah, I hated this so much.
I do think it's a good point too with Catherine Center specifically. I think she does a lot of things well, but one thing that she does not do super well is putting I think event based like depth in her books. Like I think she shines with like characters, not so much like here's this random external conflict that I'm going to add like face blindness or cancer or body image issues. Like I think she just it always feels very unnatural and clunky when she tries too hard to like weave something in. And so I think I was used to that by then with her, whereas I think you coming into this off the street was like why is this part of it?
Yeah. I'm like, who is this hoe and why do I care about her problems? That's how I felt the whole time.
And this has stayed, you said, your least favorite Catherine Center? Yeah.
Yeah, the other ones aren't even close. Like, even I think the Love Haters I gave 3 or 3.5, and that's my next lowest one. So
Okay. Yeah. I gave The Love Haters 3, and that I think is my second lowest.
But I haven't read as many as you.
Yeah. My lowest is Everyone is Beautiful, and that's one of her like very first books that she wrote. And I think
haven't read that one.
it deals with a lot of the same things that Love Haters did in the sense of like body image issues, but from the perspective of like motherhood. And so I think there was some level of just like lack of relatability on my part that made it not as good. But anyway, there's some of the books we did not have the same opinions on. Based on what we said, I think it would be fun if you guys commented, either if you're on Spotify or YouTube, or you can pop over to our Instagram if you think you are more of a Hannah or a Bree in terms of the books you like. Anything else for the people? I think we're skipping our end activity because the margaritas are calling.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, just let us know what you think. If you have read any of these and if you disagree or agree with us, I love to hear your opinion as long as it's right.
I was going to say she wants to hear your opinion if it's one she shares.
Those are my favorite opinions.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us, guys, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
That's it for today's episode of Chapter Chats. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Chapter Chats Pod.
And you can find me, Bree, at Brazen and Bookish on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
And you can find me, Hannah, at Bookshelvish on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Substack.
Or you can email us at chapterchatspod@gmail.com with book recommendations, episode ideas, or just to say hi.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review, follow, and subscribe on your favorite platform.
Catch you next chapter.